The following story was written by Natalie F. Natalie is 9 years old and attends Boothbay Region Elementary School. Enjoy!
This story shall begin like most others, but it isn't quite a fairy tale. No, but it does carry magic in its carefully crafted pages that might change the way you think about plays and live performances.
Once upon a time, a girl, 9 years old, woke up with a start in the middle of the night and looked around frantically. She sat up, just waiting for the scary beast from her dream to jump out at her any moment. But the monster never appeared.
The girl's name was Natalia, and the next day she would begin musical camp with her two best friends, Malia and Mia. Malia and Natalia were spending the next 2 weeks at Mia's house, since there were 2 weeks of camp, and they were all going to camp. Natalia was terrified of what was to come the next day, but Mia and Malia hadn't a care in the world as they had both gone to musical camp a few weeks before.
Malia woke up with a start herself, as she had heard Natalia's panting and was wondering if anything was wrong. She looked at Natalia's sleeping bag that matched hers. They both were purple and had cupcakes all over them, all different flavors and cool kinds of frosting, but all had rainbow sprinkles. Then Malia glanced at the snoring lump that was her friend Mia, covered in brightly colored blankets of all kinds, who was on Malia's opposite side. When Malia sighed a big sigh a few seconds later, Natalia jerked her head in the direction of her best friend and just stared at her, which Malia found quite creepy. Wouldn't you be freaked out if your best friend was staring straight into your soul in the middle of the night? Natalia, 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 Malia whispered. Malia, 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 Natalia whispered back mockingly. Malia raised her left eyebrow, then chuckled. She jutted her chin at the alarm clock, which read 12:03.
Natalia rolled her teal eyes that had specks of black here and there throughout the irises, rubbed them with her chestnut-colored hands, and then let her golden hair with brown strands winding throughout her long and almost magical locks surround her perfectly round head, and scratched her freckles, 5 on each cheek, next to her flawless nose.
Now it was Malia's turn to roll her eyes, which were a dark chocolate shade of brown. She sat up and tossed her long, straight, jet-black hair with a milk chocolate-colored hand. She smiled a falsely kind, almost mad smile at her friend who never goes to sleep at a friend's house.
Go to sleep! After that was said, Malia punched Natalia's arms playfully. Then she shot her bestie a glare that Natalia would never forget for as long as she lived. Then Malia turned over and shoved her covers over her head, probably making her perfectly perfect hair all tangled up in knots. Natalia crept past angry Malia and shook Mia, making her whitish blonde hair slosh around her head like a smoothie in a blender. Mia's eyes flew open, and she growled at Natalia when she spotted her. You, Mia pointed a finger with shiny pink fingernails that her mom did herself. Mia's mom works in a nail salon. Go to sleep! Wow, Natalia thought as she sadly headed back to her not-so-inviting sleeping bag. I guess Mia and Malia aren't so different after all. It's just me who's different from them.
After a while, Natalia rested her head onto her pillow, covered in pictures of irises from around the world, as Iris was Natalia's middle name, closed her eyes, let her long black eyelashes come together in celebration because Natalia was finally snoring away. No, Natalia does not snore. She just doesn't. It's just not her. But, alas, that night she did. The show must go on.
The next morning, the 3 friends were sitting at Mia's table and were eating plain pancakes with syrup and whipped cream on top. As Natalia was chewing the fluffy pancakes that Mia's mom was famous for, other than her nail salon of course, she thought that the blueberry bacon biscuits that her mom made a few times would go great cut up into small little bits and sprinkled on top and around the pancakes that she was enjoying immensely.
Malia thought that a blueberry raspberry smoothie that her dad loves would go great with the pancakes instead of plain old milk that had expired 3 days before, which tasted like rotten eggs and Crayola brand slime. And yes, Malia had tasted Crayola brand slime when she was 4 and playing chef. I need to taste new dishes like that before my customers try it, was little Malia's argument.
Mia didn't care about anything except the pancakes she had had every day since she was 7, and she was 9 at the moment. She gobbled those pancakes up like they were nothing but air you gulp down when you hold your breath for a while underwater, and when you come up to the surface, you gasp and cough and sort of eat the air around you. Mia ate her breakfast in less than 2 minutes, and she had 5 pancakes on her pink paper plate. The show must go on.
Soon it was time for camp. Tammy, aka Mia's mom, drove the girls to camp, which just happened to be 3 doors down from her house. Mia begged her mom not to drive them. She really didn't want to be embarrassed in front of the cool kids at camp that she knows will be there, since they're always going to be there. They will forever, it's true. But finally, after a ton of protesting, Mia gave in and let her mother, her ever so embarrassing mother, drive her and her friends to camp that would literally take 10 seconds to walk to. When they did arrive, a few seconds after Tammy pulled out of her driveway, both Malia and Mia practically flew out of the car door, while Natalia just sat there, motionless. Her bones felt like they were made out of jelly. Oh no, she was a jelly bones.
Nats! Tammy looked in the rearview mirror and smiled at Natalia, who sat in the back of the car the whole way to the camp. "What you doing?" she asked. "Oh, just sitting here, doing nothing," Natalia said half-heartedly. "Why?" "I can't move. I'm stuck, it seems. Stuck here forever." Tammy turned around and looked Natalia dead in the eye. "No," she narrowed her green eyes at Natalia. "No, you can move, and you're definitely not stuck. You can do this, Nats. You can. You can act like I've never seen. And don't tell Mia, but you and her aren't in the same acting range, that's for sure." Then Tammy smiled. "Now go." She shooed Natalia away playfully, then opened the doors with the automatic door opener button. That's what Natalia called it, at least.
After all that happened, Natalia felt something. Maybe pride. Pride. Right. Pride. That was it. Natalia Iris Fall was proud of herself. She was. She truly, truly was. She was proud that she was the good actress. Then Natalia jumped out the door, watched the door close, then ran after her friends into the big red brick building with the oak wood sign that read, "Welcome to the musical company headquarters, where your acting dreams will come true today. The show must go on."
Miss M, the musical camp director, hushed all of her giggling and chatting campers and motioned for them to sit down on the hard-tiled floor, which all of the campers did.
Now, Miss M took turns looking at each and every excited human form in the building. She had a kind voice, but it was also intimidating. Like you wouldn't know what she would say next, good or bad. "Welcome, you guys. I'm so excited for these next couple weeks. Thank you for all coming this season. We," Miss M gestured to all the campers, including herself, "will have lots of fun. I just know it." So, she glared at all the kids and teens staring at her. "There will be absolutely no funny business. None. And if there is any funny business, will you stay on the show? Will be the question."
All the actors and actresses gasped, and the cool older kids nodded like they were proud of themselves for knowing that they might not be in the show, whatever it may be. "Now," Miss M said again, "the show we will perform this session will be," drum roll please, all the campers smashed the tiles with their bare hands like they were sending a warning call to the army because they were under attack. "We're doing Cinderella!" The actors cheered, and the actresses clapped and yelled. "Bravo!" someone even said. "Bravo!" And boy, was that kid teased that day.
Then they began to talk auditions. So the way auditions would work is everyone would stay in a room except for the people who would be chosen to audition. Miss M would go in the next room with the counselors Lisa, Rael, Bree, and Mike, and call in the kids into small groups with 5 or 6 campers at a time. And the groups would audition for all the parts that would be set out for them to choose from. When Natalia was picked, she was in a group with 5 other kids named Maddie, Amy, Alyssa, and Lila, and Nini, and Natalia. Natalia chose to audition for Susie, one of the mice in Cinderella. Maddie chose Cinderella for her character. Amy chose Gus Gus. Alyssa chose both of the evil stepsisters, which Miss M didn't mind, thank goodness. Lila wanted to be Lady Tremaine, and Nina wanted to be the prince.
So when the auditions were over, Natalia had tried Drizella, one of the evil stepsisters that Alyssa chose to be at the beginning of her group's auditions. She got to be Jacques the Mouse, Gus Gus's friend, from the very beginning of the movie. And she got to be Cinderella herself.
After they had all regrouped, Miss M wrote down the parts on a list. Then, after a lot of waiting and talking, Miss M hushed the anxious campers and started to read down the list of parts. Maddie, Jacques, Mia, Susie, Alex, Gus Gus. Other mice. Mela, Aiden, Lila, Nina, and Max. All mice and some others will be random dancers at the ball. Amy, Drizella, Lily, Anastasia, Teresia, Lady Tremaine, Natalie, Fairy Godmother. When Natalie heard her name being called, her heart stopped. Then she heard her part. Fairy Godmother? Fairy Godmother? She was the Fairy Godmother! Miss M kept reading down the list. Alyssa, Bruno, Chickens, Maggie, Barbara, Alexis, Jackson, Jacob, and Jamie, now the royalty. Joseph, King Jake. Duke, Ace. Prince, and now the lucky, ducky actress of Cinderella herself, Ellen! Cheers didn't stop for a whole 5 minutes. I tell you, people were going crazy.
After that, though, things died down. Miss M and Ryle passed out the scripts. Everyone went on to full-on chat mode. Some people were even texting each other on their dang old phones. When they were sitting right next to each other, the show must go on.
The next 2 weeks were a blur in Natalia's mind. She kept on practicing her lines, and she got a pretty big role in her first show. I mean, she got the part of the Fairy Godmother.
Anyway, those 2 weeks went by fast. Every night after dinner with Maya, Malia, and Tammy, the girls all went upstairs to practice for the show. But Tammy stayed downstairs to do the dishes and other chores. And before Natalia could say action, it was the night of the show. The show must go on.
No, screamed Ellen, as Lily and Amy ripped up the gorgeous dress that the mice had so generously made for her so that she could go to the ball with her stepmother and stepsisters. No! Ellen ran off stage while Amy, Lily, and Teresa waltzed off the other side of the stage, cackling and mocking Cinderella, saying, "No!" over and over while they had their laughing fit.
A few seconds later, a bench was carried on stage by 2 mice, who then scurried off stage, squeaking continuously as they made their way to the dressing room that was backstage. Then Cinderella, also known as Ellen, looking absolutely horrid in her torn dress, ran over to the bench and sat there, crying her eyes out.
But just then, glitter was thrown onto the stage by some unknown source, and out came Natalia, dressed in lavender robes, blue high heels, and a silver wig rested on her head that was up in a tight bun. The fairy godmother who had appeared before Cinderella was holding a wand that was glittery white and had a large silver star on top that was shimmering and glowing, it seemed to the large audience that was watching the show intently. "Dear, whatever is the matter?" Natalia reached down and stroked Ellen's dirty blonde hair. Ellen's head jerked up at the voice, and she stared at the somewhat goddess that stood before her.
"The matter?" Ellen sniffed. "What, you don't introduce yourself first?" The whole cast of Cinderella slapped their foreheads and sighed. Ellen was supposed to say that her stepmother and stepsisters were evil, and she needed help from the fairy godmother. But they knew that it was all right. Just one mess up can't hurt anybody.
Natalia laughed nervously and looked around sheepishly, not sure what to do. Finally, she spoke with a great confidence, may I add. "My darling, I'm your fairy godmother." Natalia smiled. Fortunately, the rest of the show went quite smoothly. Natalia waved her magic wand, said bippity-boppity-boo, and Ellen's torn-up rag turned into a stunning blue ball gown. Ellen met Ace. They fell in love, yada yada yada. Ellen lost her slipper, but when Ace found out Ellen was the true wearer of the slipper, he immediately made plans to bring Ellen back to the castle to marry her the next day. Then they lived happily ever after. The end. The cast bowed, sang one last song. It was a musical. So many songs were sung. The curtain fell. The crowd whistled and cheered. Then everyone congratulated Ellen, and Natalia's parents were there to watch her in the show and pick her up. The show must go on.
So, my friends, you see, plays and live performances are hard work, but maybe you'll try it someday, huh? That would be something, don't you think?